black, bisexual, angry.
Here are my thoughts on Gen V Season 2 Episode 7, as well as my predictions for Gen V Season 2 Episode 8. That was hard to say. It's a bug in my eye. And this video might be all over the place because I didn't really script it, but also I'm kind of just jumping in. I haven't talked about this series on my channels at all, and so I'm just this dude who thinks he can say whatever he wants. And this will not be spoiler free. First of all, a lot of you are bold-faced liars. You did not predict the plot twist with Thomas Godolkin. It was not obvious to all of you. I know this how? Because I'm on the internet. I'm a content creator. I look at what people type. I see the things you say. A lot of you could not have figured that out without extra help, which is fine. That's totally fine. You probably saw an analytical video for someone who's super smart and does this for a living, and then you're like, oh yeah, that idea makes sense. And then you had confirmation bias, hindsight bias, and suddenly thought that you thought of it by yourself, but no. Even I had a little bit of help with my theory. My friend's husband was like, I don't think that's Cypher. Another dude mentioned that Cypher is probably gonna be like Mechamaru from JJK. That plus me looking up the etymology of the word Cypher, which I know a lot of you didn't even do, is how I was like, oh, that has to be Thomas Godolkin in the chamber, and he is remotely controlling this other man who's a human, which is why he doesn't have V in his blood, which explains the significance of the rape scene and why he doesn't feel pain, on top of having vast knowledge of soups, etc, etc, etc. Anyway, enough slandering. Here are some of my thoughts about episodes 7 and 8. They're not gonna be extreme predictions because I just don't know. I'm not afraid to admit I don't know, but I was really fascinated by the flashback scenes. I really loved how Gen V did this. I enjoy blips in TVs and movies where they show you a really fast scene and it's kind of like your subconscious might recognize it, but you can't figure it out, or when you really slow it down, you start to pick up clues. And I think Gen V, what they did really well is they still made it ambiguous even if you slowed it down. That way, you're still questioning what the end result is going to be. In the initial flashback, most things are in slow motion, which I initially thought meant that Marie was using her power, as in she was making things levitate or fall. And Gen V really played with the trope of, oh my gosh, she's dead. She looks like she's dead. Is she dead? But when you slow down the video, the first thing I noticed is that Marie is not covered in blood. And then eventually she's covered in blood simply because blood is slowly falling onto her. And there's even a shot where you can tell that some of the blood in the shot isn't actually on her face. Eventually her eyes dilate, and I was trying to figure out what abilities make someone's eyes dilate. Once I saw the shot of Marie's eyeball a few times, it suddenly became clear. Essentially, there's a shot where Marie's pupil looks kind of warped, which could be just the camera angle, but it looks like her eyeball is being covered in blood, and the shot makes it seem like that the blood is coming from like a reflection of the blood that's hovering above her, but it's actually her blood vessels bursting because she's being pushed by Kate. And luckily, at the very beginning of the season, around episode 2, they actually show what happens when Kate pushes someone and keeps going, and that is a direct callback to that. Going back to the topic of Marie not actually being injured or covered in her own blood, we can also see that she's falling into a pool of blood. She's not necessarily the reason why a pool of blood exists from her own body. So with all that information, the only things I can confirm is that Marie is going to heal Kate. Kate is going to have her abilities to push Marie to a dangerous level. Annabeth is going to be concerned about her sister Marie. And this is where things get tricky and very open-ended because the boys, Gen V, has set things up so that they could really take things in multiple directions. So whether or not you guess correctly about how the next episode is going to be, most of you will not actually know because there has not been definitive evidence. There's been a lot of clues, but they can go in different directions. So number one, I don't know if Kate is actually going to be next to Marie or in the room at all. I don't know if she's going to have the ability to remotely push her or not. I don't know if Kate is going to be controlled by Godolkin and that's how she's pushing Marie. I don't know if Kate is suddenly going to turn on everybody because she's been feeling so much alienation despite proving herself by not pushing everyone when Marie asked her to. One thing I know about the boys is that they will let you see how selfish humans are. So I could really see both scenarios playing out. Kate wanting to redeem herself and then ironically pushing Marie to save herself and others, or Kate being like, F all of you, I'm powerful, sorry Marie, but I have to do this kind of thing. I saw someone on Twitter mention that maybe Marie is a mimic, as in that character with a tail is going to take someone's ability to look like another person and then replace Marie. I don't see how that would fit in everything, but it is potentially a possibility. I just hit my light. Some of my theories or wonderings, queries are, what are Thomas Godolkin's actual powers? I did see someone mention that potentially Godolkin could be like Marie and have the ability to control biomaterials, cells. I don't think that's a bad theory, but I think the clue against that is when Godolkin/Cypher is talking about how polarity cancel out his abilities. He specifically mentions that polarity messes with the connection of the neural pathways, which boots Cypher out of his brain. So I'm wondering if Cypher's abilities are not just controlling bodies, but technically hijacking brain's function and being able to control how your neurons are firing or something like that. And I believe that's why he has such a keen insight onto Marie's abilities, because he's a researcher, but also because his abilities can be used in such a vast way. This might also explain why people are fully conscious of what's happening, because he's simply able to take control of your peripheral nervous system and not your central nervous system, as in he can control how your body moves, but he can't control your senses and thinking, memory, and emotion. I straight up just forgot what I was going to say for the rest of this video. A little anecdote for me, I would say that it's really been fun realizing how much anime has helped me analyze live action shows and movies. So for example, when someone described Cypher as Mechamaru, immediately everything clicked and made sense. I didn't have to think about it. Even though I grew up around the comic book collecting father and was exposed to superheroes for years, it wasn't until I saw My Hero Academia that I really started to think about what can a superpower or a quirk be? How do our minds limit our manifestations of ourselves? And our strength is only limited by our creativity. So it's also nice that once that concept was really toyed with in Gen V, I was already primed to accept that and start thinking beyond the basic plotline. And another thing I really enjoyed was the idea of precogs, which is not just limited to anime, but it's also very heavily played with in anime. The character who can predict the future, the character who can change the future, the character who can't actually predict the future, they just have really good analytical skills, but it's close enough that they're a precog. And with that being said, I also found it interesting how Annabeth's visions changed. So in the beginning of the episode, everything was going in slow motion, and it kind of seemed like blood was slowly falling on Marie as if it was an ability. Whereas in the second vision, you could tell that things were becoming more clear and more fast-paced. Blood was raining down, but also at a certain point, blood was levitating because it was moving in the opposite direction in slow motion. Which makes me wonder, is Marie going to make a bunch of people explode like a bloodbath? Or is Godolkin going to control her, sacrifice a bunch of her friends, calling back to Godolkin saying it's time for a big sacrifice? And this is such a reach. This is an extreme reach, but if that happens, is Marie going to try and heal everyone by sacrificing herself, because her powers of healing causes her head pain and a bloody nose, as well as everyone around her? What if Kate is like, Marie, don't, it's not worth it, you gotta let them go, or else you'll die and you can't save anyone if you're dead? See, that's the thing, you just don't know where it's gonna go. And that is my chaotic yap session of Gen V Season 2, Episode 7 and 8. One last thing, I think someone's gonna die. Someone has to die, because it's Gen V, it's the boys. You have to hurt. Like, there's never a happy ending. That's the other thing about analyzing shows. I know that people always want to predict what they want to happen, and they fail to think about what signs and patterns have been given to us about a piece of media. And you know what always happens? It hurts. Every win comes with a sacrifice. When you get a big piece of information, when you get a new superhero, when you finally beat a super villain, someone dies, someone loses their powers, someone disappears, someone gets weakened. So in order for Godolkin to be beaten, I think someone's gonna have to go. Also, Sister Sage, nobody knows what the full plan is. And also, will Marie go evil? Like, I really think she won't go evil, not consciously, but she's susceptible to manipulation. The other thing about anime, this isn't anime, but Avatar, Marie is getting the Korra treatment.
Black, bisexual, angry, sad, strong, sensitive.
She is powerful. Everyone around her knows it. But one of the biggest things that stops her from being powerful is her stubbornness, her fear of failure. That's the reason why Kate hasn't been healed. Granted, Kate has made a very compelling argument on why not to heal her. It makes me wonder, how far will they push her stubbornness? Will she have a redeeming moment, but still not grow enough as a character? Because if she does become this all-powerful, healing, bio-manipulative Homelander buster, that's way too easy for the boys. They can't just end things in an episode. What is the next struggle going to be?